Well, the Better Business Bureau is a nonprofit organization, and it has nothing to do with the government. That word bureau, I think, sometimes gives people the impression that we're part of the government, but we're not. And what it really is an organization that businesses will voluntarily support in order to promote trust in the marketplace.
Now, I should be saying happy birthday to you. You don't look 100, but the Better Business Bureau is celebrating their 100th birthday. How did the Better Business Bureau come to be 100 years ago?
Well, 100 years ago, newspaper advertising became popular, and no surprise, some people abused that with exaggerations and lies.
You're kidding. You're kidding.
Well, and what happened was there were a number of businesses that kind of wanted to point out that they were trustworthy and got together first informally, but eventually it evolved into the Better Business Bureau, where people would report disreputable conduct of businesses.
Now, what does the Better Business Bureau do for a company that might consider becoming involved with the Better Business Bureau?
Well, I guess what it does best for the organization, the business that becomes accredited by the Better Business Bureau, is a way for your business to demonstrate that you support trust and a high level of ethics in the marketplace. And that's really what it's all about. And then, of course, you agree to adhere to very stringent standards to demonstrate your ethics and trustworthiness in the marketplace.
What sort of an economic impact does belonging to the Better Business Bureau have on a company that joins?
Well, I know from my own business, I think it's been very helpful because people know that when you're accredited by the Better Business Bureau, if there is any kind of a problem or complaint, they can be very certain that you're going to take care of that complaint in a fair way. Because if you don't, that's one of the standards that will get you ejected from the Better Business Bureau. So the truth of the matter is, if you do have a complaint with an accredited business, you have pretty close to a 100% confidence level that even if there is a problem, it will be resolved to your satisfaction.
Now, if my company should join the Better Business Bureau, to a degree you also end up, besides the company meeting standards and being recommended by you guys, you're obviously promoting the business to a particular degree because you're letting the world know, or the region that the business operates in, that they have standards.
Right, and one of the changes for a long time, up until just a couple of years ago, the Better Business Bureau really didn't have you or allow you to use their logo on your advertising and things like that. Just kind of have the sign in the window of your business. But because so much business is conducted with the aid of, or even just through the internet, you can now use that Better Business Bureau logo on your website and on your stationery, and it's one of the ways to remind people that you do have very high standards.
Now, what about folks who, we were talking about this before going on the air, will steal a company's logo or the Better Business Bureau's logo and present themselves as being recommended and as members of the Better Business Bureau? How do people get around that?
Well, all you need to do really is go to bbb.org, which is the website and for the Better Business Bureau, and just double check. And then you'll find out if someone actually stole the logo or if they are in fact accredited by the Better Business Bureau.
Now, you were saying also that sometimes folks that join the Better Business Bureau, and at the time of joining they meet the standards, but through changes in management or changes in philosophy, they don't meet those standards and they are basically thrown out of the Better Business Bureau. That gets around town, or gets around the world, that they're no longer members, so they've been thrown out, right?
Right, and you'll often read about it in the newspaper or even see it on your local news that a local business has been ejected from the Better Business Bureau. So that's something most people would rather avoid.
Now, as a consumer of the Better Business Bureau's offerings, you have different topics that you want to share with our viewers today, and one of them is you suggest that they beware of predatory practices in home mortgage lending, and they can avoid that by going to the Better Business Bureau's website or giving you guys a phone call?
Well, yeah, if you're thinking about getting a mortgage or refinancing a mortgage through an organization, you're not really familiar with them, go to bbb.org and check them out. And by the way, just for a moment, going back to the businesses, one of the things that many people don't realize, if I have a small business, for example, I have a one-person business, the dues that you pay to go through the accreditation process depends on the size of the organization. So there are a lot of small organizations, little mom-and-pop organizations, that are surprised to find out doesn't cost a lot to demonstrate your high level of ethics by becoming accredited by the Better Business Bureau. And
it does help your business by being a member.
Absolutely.
Okay, going back to the home lending practices. You were talking about that.
Yeah, some of the things that are going on these days is, people who have a low level of income or irregular income are often targeted by these organizations. And what they'll do is really a variety of things to watch out for. One of them is they'll charge a high percentage for points and fees, even what we call junk fees that really shouldn't even be there. For example, I think in a typical mortgage or refinancing situation, you might pay 1 point for an initiation fee, maybe another point to kind of take care of the attorney fees and the other closing costs. And what we're talking about here is organizations will charge, let's say, 10% or even more in fees. So that amounts to a lot of money, and once you're paying the interest over a long period of time, it makes a real big difference.
And these are the people that end up getting folks thrown out of their homes?
Well, yeah, in fact, that's another one of the tactics. In fact, even when a homeowner has significant equity in their home, they will get targeted. And what will happen is they will refinance, and it'll look great. My payments are going down maybe, and I have all this cash in my pocket. But what they'll do is they'll arrange it so that you're paying more than you can actually afford, and what they're intending to do is foreclose and then sell your property.
How can one avoid getting into that situation? What surprises me is that people don't get their own personal attorney or a reputable attorney to help them out. They just talk to these people without legal advice?
Well, yeah, and even you will find very often with a reputable organization, they will have their own attorney that you're paying for at the time of settlement. So I guess the best thing to do is to do your homework, and not everyone will do this, but usually right in the newspaper or online, you can get a good idea of what the points are and what the interest rates are that the different organizations are offering. But then again, always check them out with the Better Business Bureau to make sure you're dealing with a reputable organization.
Now, when you own a home, or when you eventually do get to be a homeowner, you suggest people watch out for the home repair scams.
Well, yeah, the contractors, there are a lot of reputable contractors in this country, but on the other hand, like any other industry, there are people you have to watch out for. So some of the red flags that we recommend is, first of all, reputable contractors do not go door to door, knocking on the door. And one of the typical things that'll happen is they'll say, hey, well, for example, did the driveway of one of your neighbors around the corner from your house, and we have some leftover material, so we can do this on the cheap for you. And very often they'll ask for money up front. So number one, never pay a contractor money up front.
Don't pay cash either, right?
Don't pay cash. And check them out through the Better Business Bureau website. In fact, if you're considering doing any kind of work on your home, contracting work, it's very important to have a project plan. Know exactly what it is that you want to do. Because, for example, you talk to the first contractor, and maybe you're thinking of putting windows in. Okay, so now you have a bid for windows. You talk to the next contractor, and maybe the scope expands. Now you're not comparing apples to apples. Now maybe you're doing some other work besides the windows. But if you start with a project plan, you compare the bids from one to another. Now, another thing the Better Business Bureau does for free is they can provide bids for you. So we suggest, number one, have a plan. Really? Absolutely. You just go to the website again, bbb.org, and click on bids, and you will get within a few days 3 bids for the work that you want to do. You're under no obligation to use any of those 3, but it's always good to have 2 or 3 bids on any work that you're going to do. So here's one way to get 3 free bids, if nothing else, and you may choose one of them, or you may use someone else.
Does the Better Business Bureau charge for that service?
No, it's absolutely free. Everything the Better Business Bureau does for the consumer is free.
As a consumer, does the consumer have to be a member of the Better Business Bureau?
No, not at all. It's a free resource available to anyone. And besides information on businesses, we have information available on charities, in fact, very detailed information, so that if you're trying to choose where to contribute money, you can see how much of the money actually goes to the people you're trying to help, as opposed to administrative expenses that sometimes organizations absorb most of that money.
And one thing you folks suggest is having a written contract, right?
You have a written contract, and if you don't understand it, get some help, even an attorney if necessary. And in most cases for contracting work, there's a 3-day cooling off period, so even after you sign the contract, you still, in most cases, have 3 days to back out of that deal if you want to.
Now, it is my understanding that if you sign a contract, you are better off, especially with companies that are out of state, making sure that the state that the person you sign the contract with is under New York State law and not under a neighboring state's law, because New York State laws are much stronger and beneficial to the consumer. Is that correct?
Well, yeah, it's true in so many things in New York State. Insurance is a good example, very rigid standards for insurance. So you want to make sure that the insurance, the licenses and permits are all in place, that and not assume that they're there.
And you said also, too, that you should not assume that the people you're dealing with are honest, which is, we're saying in so many words, because they make this fantastic presentation to you, and you know, they're in the neighborhood. Just really watch out for that. That's such a big scam, isn't it? Yeah,
and really in any situation, excuse me, you want to get it in writing and you want to read the fine print. For example, even in a retail store, what the associate tells you is not necessarily what's actually going to happen. So you need to get it in writing and make sure you understand it.
Now, a friend of mine who is the society columnist for the Saratogian newspaper, I had lunch with her about a month ago, and she was telling me about a call that she and her husband got one night that their grandson was up in Canada, and he was stranded without money and had gotten into trouble and was in jail, and he needed money to get out, and Grandma and Grandpa, would you help me? Mm-hmm. And she said, give me your number. Things got a little weird, and checked with her children, and their son was not in trouble at all. He was right at home. And this is known as the grandparent scam, and I saw it firsthand. Someone experienced it. Well,
unfortunately, they did the right thing. They called to verify what was going on. And sometimes it's excuse me, sometimes it's a grandchild or some other relative or friend that claims to be, in most cases, in another country, or they're far away, and they've had an accident, or they've been mugged or arrested, and they need money wired to them right away.
Now, what is the source of this scam? Is it going on in different countries, or is it within New York State, or just all over the world?
Well, it happens everywhere, and unfortunately, through social networking and other information available on the internet, people can find out names of family members and friends, and that's why they will impersonate them. Sometimes they'll be a little bit more elaborate, where, let's say, the grandchild starts the telephone call, and then someone who claims to be a lawyer or a doctor or a police officer gets on the phone, and this really gets people on edge and scared.
Now, you were talking about something before going on the air today, which I had never heard of, the Jamaican scam. Could you share with our viewers what that's all about? It's kind of scary.
Yeah, the Jamaican lottery scam is terrifying, actually. Lottery scams have been around for a long time. And what typically happens is you get a telephone call or an email that says that you've won a foreign lottery. And, when people are desperate enough, they want to believe it. And what they'll ask you to do is wire money to them, because they claim that they need to pay the taxes before they can give you your reward. In fact, one of the cases I recall, an 88-year-old retired Coast Guard officer receives one of these calls. And make a long story short, they scammed him out of $250,000 before he told anybody. Now, here's the real scary part about the Jamaican lottery scam. They're run by violent youth gangs. And what happens is, once they get into you, once they get your information, once you send them some money, even once you realize it's a scam, they keep coming after you by threatening you. They'll do things like threaten to burn your house down. For example, one of the things they'll use is Google Earth, and they can see your home, and they'll describe your home, and people will think that they're under surveillance. They'll say, you know, our gang is right in your neighborhood, we know where your house is, and we're going to burn it down. They threaten bodily harm to the people who are sending them money, their families. They even have threatened to rape grandchildren of these people who they're scamming out of this money. And it's really bad. It's grown over the years. A few years ago, about $30 million was reported being scammed out of people from the Jamaican lottery scam. It's up to $300 million, but the truth of the matter is the authorities believe about 90% or more of the people that are being scammed are terrified to report it. It's not even embarrassment. They're afraid because of the threats against their lives and family members.